We've got some breaking news to get to as Browns rookie Mike Hall has been suspended 5 games for violating the NFL personal conduct policy. So we'll break that down and then talk about the Davante Adams trade rumors and whether or not the Browns could be in the mix for the Raiders star wide receiver. Now, hand up, I initially misinterpreted this 5 game suspension with the short I posted on our channel. It's not 5 additional games because Hall, who has missed the first 4 games on the commissioner's list, is counting this as time served. So just one more game for Mike Hall this week against the Commanders, and then he is eligible to start practicing and rejoin the team next week leading into their matchup on the road in Philadelphia. So, some background here in case you missed it. Over the summer, Mike Hall had a domestic dispute with his fiancee, who he allegedly dragged down the driveway. He initially was said to have put a gun to her temple. Then the fiance later recanted that part of the story. So it just makes it very gray instead of rather black and white and clear as to what all went down. So I don't want to speculate as it is not really clear to us what exactly would happen, but ultimately we appear to have at least a resolution for Hall, who has been suspended for one more game on top of the 4 games he missed to start the year on the commissioner's list, which is basically like a permanent timeout. There's no end date. It's just indefinite until they wrap up their investigation. So Hall will be able to come back and join the team, which I want to say I'm excited for. I wasn't like Hall blew me away in the preseason, so I feel like the Browns have some, great secret weapon about to be deployed. Overall, just to kind of put a bow on this, it's not a great look for Andrew Berry. I mean, you go back to the Deshaun Watson trade, which was not something that the entire fan base agreed on, and it did not come without a lot of pushback and resentment and whatnot, and understandably so for all the charges and all the allegations against Watson. But you follow that up with the Perion Winfrey's draft pick, which was a complete and utter failure, moved on from him after a season where there were some pre-draft concerns about his maturity and his off-the-field concerns. The Browns ignored those, and they ended up just lighting a 4th-round pick on fire. And then this year, they draft Mike Hall in round 2, who also had some level of pre-draft concerns regarding his maturity and his off-the-field concerns, and what do you know? Before the season even starts, he finds himself getting suspended or placed on the commissioner's list and suspended for the first 5 games, essentially. So, not a great look for Andrew Berry, as there have been a handful of draft misses, which, listen, you can look at any NFL GM and make a great argument that they are either a really good GM or a really bad GM if you pick a bad draft of theirs, because no GM bats even 500 on draft picks. It's that much of a crapshoot. But I would have just hoped, like after maybe the Perion Winfrey incident, the Browns might have had some soul searching and some reflecting and, okay, let's not repeat that mistake. And well, I don't think it's a guarantee that this Mike Hall pick has been a mistake. It's been 5 games, and it's hard to really tell what all happened between him and his fiance, but it's definitely not off to a great start. So hopefully things can turn around. Otherwise, I feel like the Browns would have made nearly identical mistakes back-to-back at coincidentally the same position as well. So the Browns looking to get some reinforcements on their defensive line. Now, they've got a banged-up Myles Garrett, and I think they've got a good interior right now between Tomlinson and Shelby Harris. I need some more out of Zadarius Smith, but Jefferson and Kamara have done a solid job of rotating in with Hurst on IR following week 1. Now, before we talk about the Davante Adams trade rumors out there, help us grow as a channel to our next, baby milestone for week 5, which is 37,200 subscribers. We are on the dot, 50 subs away. So if you are looking for a free Cleveland Browns YouTube channel that gets you guys the news as soon as it comes out, hit that sub button down below. Now, I want to talk about the Davante Adams trade rumors out there because the Browns are always going to be in the mix when a star player is available for trade, as we learned with Brandon Ayuk a few weeks ago. Now, before we look at that, a quick shout out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I like about Game Time is they give you an all-in price option. So you don't have to spend 20, 30 minutes getting to the checkout only to learn that the price nearly doubles or goes way above what you expected because of taxes and fees. With Game Time, you can just select all in before you begin your search so you know exactly what your out the door price is. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Now, let's start by talking about what all led to pretty much this. Davante Adams telling the Raiders that he would prefer to be traded, which is quite like the spin zone of like not requesting, but just a preference. And then we have Schefter adding some more context to it that if anyone's interested in trading for Davante Adams, the Raiders want it to be known they want a second-round pick and more. Doesn't mean they're going to get that, but that's when they would like the conversations to start, as there's always some back and forth in these trade conversations, some haggling that goes on, and some bargaining to maybe lower the price a little bit. But I think the tipping point for Adams in Las Vegas was just earlier this morning or late last night when Antonio Pierce liked this Instagram photo that had a screenshot of a tweet saying, don't be surprised if Davante Adams played his last snap as a Raider. And keep in mind, this comes after Adams missed, of course, the Browns game on Sunday with a hamstring injury that popped up at the very end of practice, which somewhat peculiar, but, injuries happen in practice. That's not too abnormal, but just a little, eyebrow-raising worthy. And that follows a rant from Antonio Pierce in Week 3 when he said players were making business decisions. And everyone was sort of wondering which players. Could be Davante Adams. So when it comes to the Browns now that we're all caught up to on what happened between Adams and the Raiders, how do the Browns fit into this? I mean, do you want to tempt Andrew Berry with a good time? And a good time in his mind is an NFL trade. He loves trades. He's addicted to trades, right? That is his, just thing that he has to itch to get himself through the day. He needs a trade. And so Davante Adams is, of course, going to catch his eye. I will say, now he's only played 3 games, and 209 yards and 1 touchdown is very good in 3 games. However, Adams has not, very small sample size, but just stick with me for a moment, been as good as previous years to start this season. The drops are kind of present for him. It's not as bad as Amari Cooper. Like, if you looked at Amari Cooper's stats right now, you wouldn't think he's having a bad year. 148 yards and 2 touchdowns in 4 games. But we all know that the eye test tells us something different. Adams is kind of in that same boat right there. So, would the Browns be interested in trading for Davante Adams? It's hard to say no. I mean, think about it through the lens of Andrew Berry. He's got a receiver in Cooper who's been very disappointing. Imagine if he feels like the solution to the Browns' offensive problems is getting a superstar receiver and bringing on Davante Adams, who, in Berry's mind, might catch some of those drop passes that Cooper's had in the first few weeks. And that's all it takes for the Browns to, instead of being 1-3, being 2-2 or 3-1. I mean, we saw Andrew Berry pursue Brandon Ayuk. Now, it's not apples to apples because Ayuk is much younger than Adams, and that's a much more long-term investment, whereas Adams has 2 years left on his deal this year and next year, I believe, and it's not very cheap, so you'd be taking on a decent payday right there. But I could see Andrew Berry looking at this as an opportunity to correct the offense. And what has Andrew Berry always done as a GM? He identifies problems and he fixes them. He at least attempts to fix them. Oh, our kicker is missing kicks in the preseason. We're trading for Dustin Hopkins. He is the Flex Seal of GMs. If there is a leak, he's going to throw draft picks or money at it. He has never taken the approach of like the Dallas Cowboys of, well, we're just going to hope that this guy we have from the 5th round last year is ready for a big role this year. Oh, no. Andrew Berry has always approached potential roster issues with transactions, with trades, signings, or draft picks. So if he feels like this is the solution to the offense, would anyone put it past him to at least pick up the phone and call? So let's talk about that. What would a trade look like? I'm not interested in giving up a second for Davante Adams. I think there is some truth to Adams has been, albeit good for the first 3 games, but just hasn't quite passed the eye test for me to give up a second rounder. So I'd be open to giving up a 3rd round draft pick. I wonder if the Browns would try and reduce that 3rd round pick by including a player maybe like Amari Cooper to finish his career, oddly enough, back where the Raiders, where it all started. But if I'm Las Vegas, you're looking to get more draft capital to maybe bundle something together to move up in the draft if needed to get your franchise quarterback in April. I don't think they feel like, hey, Amari Cooper for the next 10 weeks is going to help us improve as a ball club long term. I don't think the Raiders are interested in trying to make the 2024 version of themselves better if they're trading away Davante Adams. They are interested in improving future Raiders, and that means draft capital, not receivers with, no time left on their contract beyond this season. So I'll turn it over to you back at home. Would you do this trade? Adams for a 3rd, yes or no? It'd be nice for the Browns to go into this draft having a somewhat usual amount of draft picks, and getting back into round 1 definitely helps with that. But, moving on from a day 2 draft pick should not be something we completely gloss over. But we can also remind ourselves that while you have good 3rd round picks like Martin Emerson, you also have picks like David Bell that haven't really worked out. So don't act like a 3rd round pick is some guarantee to be a bona fide starter on this team in a few seasons. Before we go, I just wanted to raise this point here, bring this to your attention. The Browns waived running back Gary Brightwell. Now why would the Browns do this? Why would the Browns move on from a running back? I didn't see them add a running back. Well, if I remember correctly, when you let a guy in the PUP list open up his practice window, you have to then, after 21 days, either place him on the reserve PUP list or place him on the 53-man roster. So you would theoretically then need a roster spot. And I wonder if that's the roster spot. Because if you're going to bring a running back on, what position would make most sense to move on from? A running back. Just going to plant that in the back of your head. All right. We're going to let you guys get on out of here. I appreciate everyone for hanging out with us today. If you enjoyed the content, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all later.